All right, we are back for this episode of Beyond the Skills podcast, where we talk about everything, right? Sex, drugs, rock and roll, entrepreneurship, business, real estate, you name it, influencers, everything, all the bullshit, and everything you need to know about how to be successful as an entrepreneur and a professional real estate investor. Today, I got a special guest for you guys. I met this guy at a mastermind. Right when I first met him, I liked him because I was like, this is a guy that I can relate to. First off, he kind of sounds like me.
yeah, that southern drawl.
That's right. He's from the South, and he's an ex-military guy. He's a patriot. You know, he served for this country. He served the police department, and he just has an incredible story of where he started and, you know, where he ended up. That tells me that, you know, anybody can do this and get into real estate no matter where they came from and their background, because it's not like, you know, where you came from your background as being a cop that you were making, you know, $200,000 or $300,000 a year and transition into real estate. Like it's probably pretty tough going from cop to real estate, but I don't want to get too deep into the weeds. I want you to tell your story from your perspective, but I think it's an awesome story and it's going to relate to a lot of people. But Mr. Jake Sullivan, I appreciate you coming.
Appreciate you having me, man. You know, I guess we'll start kind of at the beginning. You know, I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, single mom, and so we struggled most of my life. Only male figure in my family was my grandfather, and he was a military guy. So everything I learned from him. I learned how to be a man. I learned how to take care of my family. I learned how to work hard, and that's kind of what my whole life has been about. But I was pretty smart, so he told me, he said, son, you need to learn how to work with your head, not your hands. You're not as good at that as I am. So I took that to heart. But I wanted to serve, so I went in the Marine Corps when I got out of high school. I went all over the world, enjoyed my time. It was some of the best times and some of the worst times all at the same time. After that time, I got out of the Marine Corps.
How old were you when you got out of the Marines, and what did you do next?
22 years old, got out of the Marine Corps, became a state trooper in South Carolina. And as a state trooper, you don't make a lot of money, but I like to serve. I enjoyed serving my country, and law enforcement was kind of a natural progression from the military, and it still is today, which is something I try to tell veterans now is that's not your only option to go into law enforcement or, you know, public service, you know, EMS, fire, that kind of stuff. Take a look at real estate. It's pretty good. So I got into real estate kind of on accident.
What made you want to even get into it, from going from being a warrior to a cop to let's go do real estate?
Money was the first thing.
Yeah.
And I tried to figure out how I could make some extra money. I started off, I ran a couple of businesses, you know, started businesses and ran them from the beginning and sold them off because it took up a little too much time. And it wasn't what I really liked. My grandfather was in real estate. He developed mobile home parks and had single family homes. So I was used to that. I'd seen it all my life. You know, my Saturdays were going with him to work on rental properties. But he was the old school way. You know, he bought them with cash, and there was no debt. And
Does his own maintenance.
Did all of his own maintenance. So me and my brother learned how to do all that stuff through him. And he discouraged me from doing it for a long time because he said, you can't make the money I made because you don't do the work. You don't want to do the work. And so for a lot of years, I didn't get into it because of that. But after a while, I realized I may not make the money he made, but I can still make some money. And then the misconception when you get into real estate, you think you have to have a real estate license. So that's what I did first. So I got my real estate license, and I was selling real estate, and I was making more money selling real estate than I was in my law enforcement
on the side.
Career.
So you had your full-time job.
Yeah, I still have a full-time job, but here I am making twice as much as a real estate agent.
What year is this?
This is in 2001. So 2001, I'm selling real estate. Everything's going great. I'm making a lot more money. And I said, well, it's time to start investing. My first two purchases were mobile homes. Still have them today. They're still in the portfolio, still making money, been paid for, God, 18 years probably, 20 years.
Wow.
Don't know if I'll ever sell those two, but that's where it started.
Yep.
And so then I learned how to flip houses, build houses, and started doing that, taking the real estate commissions. So like you talk about your fast money, that was my fast money. But really at that point it was extra money because I had a full-time job. So I took that money along with the flip proceeds, and I just kept buying more and more.
So just to understand that you had your realtor's license and you started flipping while you were still a state trooper.
Still a state trooper.
Okay.
Yep. And so then all of that just keeps snowballing. But I'm buying properties without debt.
All cash.
All cash, and just kept it rolling. Yeah. And then
and that was like learned from your grandfather.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the way he did it. It was all cash. It wasn't debt involved. So I didn't understand how debt worked. I didn't understand leveraging the debt, equity in the properties. I didn't understand any. I didn't know that. I didn't need it. It wasn't something I was going to do, I didn't think. And so I've invested in real estate and did a full career in law enforcement for 22 years. And I did that on the side. You say it's on the side, but it really wasn't. It was another full-time job.
Yeah. How many hours a week were you working for the state trooper's office?
You would do 40 hours a week. And then when we went to a rotation shift
so you still could do, I mean, if you're working 40 hours, you still got enough time to do real estate.
Yeah. We had plenty of time off. We did the rotating shift. So you were working Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it rotated the next week. So you had a good bit of time off. And then I left the state troopers and became a city cop. And that actually became a little more flexible. And most of the time in real estate, on the sales side, that's weekends and evenings. So I was showing houses in the evenings and on Saturday or Sunday when I was off and doing deals on the phone. As long as you got a phone and a computer, even back then, you could get deals done. So that's where it all started. And it's just blown up from there.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love that you still did this on the side while still keeping your full-time job, because I think that's important for a lot of the listeners to hear that maybe are thinking about getting into real estate, that you don't have to burn the bridges like some of the gurus say quit your job, go all in, start doing real estate and make it work. Yeah. I'd say that's stupid.
I couldn't do it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I had to take care of my family. Yeah. And there is something to be said about having a safety net.
Yeah. And look, insurance, you probably had all the insurance.
Everything, all the benefits. Yep. But look, as a Marine, I can take it back to the Marine Corps. We had a plan, and we had a contingency plan, and then we had another contingency plan. So why would you just give this away and take away that safety net just to jump all in so everybody can say, oh, now you're real? Yeah. Right? Now you're real because you gave up all of this. That's crazy.
I would just say that makes you smart.
Right.
I think that's that burn the bridges and not have, and I love that you say contingency plans, because I think that's huge for you guys. You already know that. Follow me. I love to watch and intermingle real estate entrepreneurship with the art of war, right? Right. Making sure you stack up all the odds so that you can win. And that would be stacking up all the odds so that you can win, because you're putting more chances on you failing by just trying to do real estate by itself when you already had a stable, fast money job. And if you can do both, why not do both?
Right. Everybody doesn't want to, that goes back to, you and I were talking about this before. What's your why? Yeah. Why are you doing this? All right. And it's going to change. Mine has changed so many times over the years. In the beginning, my why was just to make ends meet. I was doing a job that I loved. I was serving my community, taking care of my family, but it wasn't enough really to get ahead. Yeah. So I found something that I enjoyed, that was flexible enough for me to do whenever I could, and it created that extra income I needed. So that was the why then. It was different 10 years later. It was different another 10 years later, and it's different now. Right. But you got to know what your why is.
Yeah, that's so good. It's always going to change. Yep. I'd say almost every 5 to 10 years, my goals and what I thought was important is not as important. I think we talked about this in the truck ride. Jake's been riding with me all day today. We've been looking at properties, and he's going to be speaking tonight at the Alliance meetup. So we had some great conversations today about a lot of different topics.
Yeah, we should have been recording those.
We should have been recording, yeah, about just philosophy on investing, what's bullshit, what's not, how hard this business really is, and, kind of a lot of, I'd say, truisms on what it takes to be successful in this business. We should probably dive into that, because I think, one of the reasons why you're such a successful guy in real estate too, probably your background from starting with your grandfather, leading up to Marine Corps and State Trooper, and just I'm sure that all that hard work. I'm sure your grandfather was a hard working man. He's probably a hard man too. I'm sure.
Very much so. Yeah,
I could tell just by you, because he probably had a deep impression on you on joining the Marines and probably doing the right thing, hard work. So let's talk on your journey of, when you started doing real estate full time and you quit your job, you quit.
I retired.
Yeah, you retired. Oh, so you didn't even quit. You retired. You put 20 years in.
Yeah, I did 22 years.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for your service.
Appreciate it.
Once you retired and you went full time, what does that look like today, full time? And how long ago was it that you retired?
So I retired in 2020.
Okay, so 4 years ago. Yep. What did life look like when you retired? You started doing this full time.
Well, I was telling you earlier, I opened my own real estate brokerage in 2018. And so I already had an office, I had staff, everybody working. So the day after I retired, I walked 7 o'clock the next morning, I walked into an office and just went back to work. And I realized that is not what I wanted to do. And I wasn't taking advantage of some of the benefits of being a real estate investor, which is to be able to work wherever you want to, whenever you want to, and kind of do what you want. So I think we did that for 2 years, and then we sent everybody home virtually, and that's the way we operate now. And I do a lot of what you do. I mean, every day I'm out in the field, I'm going to different projects, I'm on the phone all day. I have my assistant helping me with follow-ups and things like that. But we took our staff down.
Wait, you mean to tell me you don't live on the beach and have a lifestyle?
No, man.
You're not a lifestyle entrepreneur, a lifestyle real estate investor?
Definitely not.
No?
No. You have to actually work if you want that kind of lifestyle. It doesn't just come for free.
Yeah.
And you can't just look like that on social media, because guess what? At some point, I'm going to meet you.
Yeah.
These people have to meet you sometime, and you can't be fake.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
work.
It's work. And so it was, like Chris said, I've been here since yesterday, and I came in yesterday, and we're sitting at his dining room table, and he's steady banging out calls. And I'm like, well, if he's working, I'm going to work too. So I'm over here sending messages and emails, and, instantly, like you said, when I met you, I knew you were a hard worker. You were real. Yeah. And then getting to spend more time with you, it's obvious. Be around you 5 minutes. Yeah. You can't stay off the phone. So
that's real life.
That's real life. That's what we do.
Yeah. And that's, if you want to be a professional real estate investor and actually crush the game and not act like you crushing the game on Instagram or Facebook, dude, it's a lot of work. And it's not really a lot of physical work. It's a lot of communication, and good communication, and problem solving. That's pretty much what, I don't know what your day-to-day looks like. I'm sure that's what, it's putting out fires.
Putting out fires every day.
Handling problems. This person didn't show up on a job site, or this tenant burned down one of your trailers, a seller pulling out a day before the closing.
Yep. So not showing up for a closing.
Not showing up for a closing. This is real life of what my week looks like. Putting out fires. I'm sure I know it does for you too. So it's not physical work. It's mental work, and it's being Johnny on the spot and being able to pivot, solve problems, and you're almost like a high paid psychologist, banker, problem solver / contractor. Mediator. You name it. Like, there's a lot of skill sets that are involved in being good at this. John Jay.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I got a lot of those from being a police officer, because you're a therapist, you're a mediator.
That's the word I was looking for. Therapist.
Yeah, you're a therapist, you're a mediator, you're a problem solver. All those different things, and that's what we did on a daily basis. Most people think we chase bad guys all day, but you don't. Those are very rare. And they're exciting when they happen, but the mundane calls that we did every day, all day, that's where I honed in some of those skills, and I translate it over to the real estate game. Same thing with the military, self-discipline, being able to, think on your feet, make quick reaction calls, and pivoting,
being fluid.
I love the Marine Corps, improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yes,
that's it. Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yeah, another thing that interviewed a Navy SEAL, he said, shoot, move, and communicate.
Yep.
That we always shoot, move, and communicate. If we do that, then we have synchronicity of, where we're moving together and communicate. And that's business.
Right.
That's why I'm glad you're talking about that, because there's a lot of concepts in the military that transmigrate over into being good as an entrepreneur.
Self-discipline, I think, is probably the biggest thing, being self-motivated, because you know as well as I do, now with what we do, if I don't feel like getting up today, nobody's going to tell me to get up. Nobody's going to make me go make those calls. Nobody's going to get me to send those emails, go look at those properties. I have to do that myself, and you do too.
Yeah. Well, people think when you start a business or you become a real estate investor, this label gives you all kind of wealth just by saying, I'm a real estate investor, I own a business, or I'm an entrepreneur now. Mm-hmm. It's actually 10 times harder. It's easier to get a job.
Oh, definitely. Definitely easier to clock in and clock out.
Yeah, because nobody's watching you and nobody's even holding you accountable. But if you don't show up and you don't get the job done and execute, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
You can kind of fuck off at your job and still get paid.
You can do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And it happens every day, all day.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, we don't want to get into that, but we were talking about that too.
That's right.
Customer service is gone. People are just, they're at a job, and we should be happy that they're there.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that could be a whole nother podcast about the wokeism of America and people feel entitled that they don't have to work and they should just get paid. It's the degradation of society through the spread of hardcore socialism mixed up with borderline communism.
Right.
Is what's going on in this country right now. Right. Where the old morals and values of work hard, do the right thing, and there was honor and respect and hard work. It's almost like it's looked down upon if you work hard. Like, oh, you working for the man, or you stupid for working that hard. You making that man rich. All the stupid stuff you see that's making people not want to work. You come from a different era, generation, as far as, and I think I'm probably one of the last of that old school too. I'm a little bit younger than you. 46, right?
That's right. Yeah, 46.
I'm 43. Raised by a hard man too, and I don't know anything but hard work. But let's get into best practices of what's made you successful as a professional real estate investor, and some of the pitfalls that some of the listeners here could avoid when maybe just getting started. Maybe they have a full-time job like you, and they're looking to get into real estate or even start a business. What's some of the things that you could say that you made mistakes on that you've done differently?
Well, I started off flipping really before I knew the natural evolution of real estate investing.
Progression.
So I didn't know about wholesaling.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know direct to seller marketing. I had to learn those down the road. So I started at flipping for the most part. The sales side of it is different, but it ties in. But I started at flipping. So if I were starting back out, I would really want to start where you should start.
Yep.
And you start with direct to seller marketing. Yep. You start with your wholesaling and learning how to find a deal, to talk to people, to secure the funding for the deals, all that kind of stuff. Yep. Start there, educate yourself. But the biggest thing I would say is you got to take action.
Yeah.
You're never going to do anything sitting on the bench. So until you take action, you're not even in the game. So don't even talk to me if you're not starting. But
there is a methodology to do it the correct way, which we talked about. If you guys have followed me for a long time, you've probably been hearing me talk about the progression chart of elementary school all the way through, college or grad school, which is elementary school is the basic fundamentals. No different than you would go to elementary school to learn the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. There's ABCs and 1, 2, 3s in real estate. And that's how to find a deal. What does a deal consist of? Where are the best deals at? And those best deals are done through and captured through direct-to-seller marketing. And if you get that piece right, it kind of builds on everything else. Because then it's easy to raise private money because you got a great deal. Then it's easy to flip a property because you captured a lot of equity. Then it becomes easy to keep a buy and hold because you bought it at 50, 60 cents on the dollar and you have a lot of equity and you can keep it as a rental. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? When cash flow fails, what saves you? Equity. You can sell it.
Yep.
So I love that you said that you said, you went straight from flipping, but you realized direct-to-seller marketing is the fundamentals.
Yes. And I had to go back and learn it on the back end, which worked out fine. But
most people start with buy and hold. They skip another layer.
Oh, God. And look, and that was my next, I did that next. And if you do go into buy and hold too fast, you're going to run out of money. You're never going to live on cash flow. Did my cash flow pay my bills for 20 years? Some of them. Yeah, but I mean, one air conditioner goes out, one bad tenant, and you're losing money. Now I'm taking money from my paycheck to pay for my rental properties.
Jake, you mean to tell me that passive income ain't passive and I can't just buy a bunch of real estate and sell off in the sunset on my rental properties?
What is passive income? I've never seen it.
Well, the guys on Instagram tell me all the time I could just buy 10 rental properties and I can retire.
No, never.
And live off the cash flow.
No, never going to happen.
Or I can just buy a 100-unit apartment complex, value add, and I'm set for life.
No, not going to happen. If you can find out how it works, please let me know.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing it for 20-something years, and I haven't been able to figure it out yet.
And I love that, so you've been doing this longer than most of the people, if not all the people that I've ever interviewed, right? You've been in this game 20-something years, longer than me. I flipped my first house in 2007, 3 months before the real estate crash. And I really didn't flip it. I just put it for sale because I saw the market was at the peak.
Right.
You remember we talked about this.
Yep.
It was crazy. From like 05 to 2008 or 2007, right before that crash. Mm-hmm. It was insane, right? Not as insane as it was 2020 to 2022,
right?
But it was still pretty crazy, and I had enough cognitive awareness. Like, dude, I told Patty, it's like, hey, we can put our house for sale and make a bunch of money. But you've been doing this way longer than me. That was my first house I flipped just by pure recognition. The market was high, and I'm going to take some chips off the table and take that money. The fact that you've been doing this for 26 years and you're still doing it shows a lot to your skill set and your tenacity to still be in the game, because 90%, I don't know if you know this, Jake, 90% of people that try to get into real estate fail and quit. They quit and fail, and it goes back to what you just said. They don't know how to buy right because they're not doing direct seller marketing.
Right.
Because that's the fundamentals. Because they start off with what we just talked about, buy and hold, thinking they're going to buy a bunch of rental properties and sell off into the sunset. So let's get into some of those misconceptions about what's the reality of owning a bunch of rental properties.
You're dealing with tenants, toilets, and termites. I really love that because it's true. When you've got rental property, you're always going to have headaches. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I would not be where I'm at today without them.
Yeah.
I will probably always own a few.
But you're not living off the cash flow that's for your lifestyle. It's more of a store of value.
Yes.
Protecting your capital against, hedge against inflation and get a bunch of depreciation. That's the real value in owning rental properties.
And honestly, it's coming to fruition for me because like I said, I'm over 20 years in the game. So a lot of those properties that I did end up putting debt on at some point, they're all becoming paid off now. Mm-hmm. The market's still good. Now I'm selling a lot of them and making big buckets of money. And then now I can reallocate those funds somewhere else.
Yep.
So it's more of a long-term play, and people just they think you can live off cash flow. You're going to make a little cash flow that you can pay some bills with, but you're not going to have this extravagant lifestyle that people put out there.
No.
You make your money, you and I talked about this, you make your money when you buy a deal. That's where you're realizing there's equity there.
Yep.
But you don't actually get it until you sell the property.
That's right.
I don't care how long you rent it. When you sell it is when you're going to make
it. It is
money.
Unrealized until you sell that property. And if you're investing in real estate for purely cash flow, you're better off starting a business.
Right.
You're better, like a wholesaling or flipping business. That's our cash cow. That's your cash cow.
Right.
That's where I get my fast and medium money that we talk about, that I talk about all the time to you guys. So
another thing that people talk about is stop being transactional.
Yeah.
When you're looking at investing in multifamily storage facilities, those some of the bigger assets, they want you to quit with your transactional stuff. Well, the transactional stuff is what brings in the money. I may have to sit on a multifamily or a storage facility, a mobile home park for 20 years, 5 years before I can sell it and actually make some money. Well, how am I living for that 5 years? Where's the money coming from? And those transactions, that's where it's coming from.
Yep. Well, and let's talk about it. I think a lot of people have been sold the bill of goods because we had such a run up in real estate, and real estate was so hot. I think a lot of people got sucked into the theory, and I call it theory, not actuality, of thinking that you can just buy up a bunch of value add apartments or single family or even whatever, mobile homes or whatever it may be. I'd say mostly apartments because that was the biggest buzzword for past probably 7, 8, 10 years, and think that you can just buy a bunch of apartments and you're just going to make money just because they keep going up. But you don't realize that unless you actually stabilize it, get the rents up, and actually sell it.
Right.
Because it takes, I mean, I showed you a park that I had for 4 years that's netting 8 to 10 grand a month, but I told you how long did it take to get to that point? 4 years.
Yeah. So how did you make a living for that 4 years?
Wholesaling
while you
and
were
flipping.
doing that?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
It wasn't. I didn't get paid for rehabbing my trailers.
Right.
Because the extra capital I'm getting, the extra cash flow I'm getting from the mobile homes, I'm not keeping that. I'm rolling it into the next unit. I'm paying cash for the next trailer I'm hauling. I'm paying cash for the next rehab that comes up when that tenant moves out.
Yep. And people don't think about, when that tenant moves out, all right, so now you're not getting any income, but in addition to that, now I've got extra expense in putting it back together to rent it back out. And that's just the rental market. Every day, you only have 365 days a year, and every day that property should earn you money. And every day that is not rented or people are not paying, you're not making that money. You'll never make it again. It's gone. You missed that time frame. And I don't think people think about that. And when you're turning units and that kind of thing, you've got to think about how much money I just lost by it sitting there. And just another one of those things that people don't think about.
Well, they don't. Flow. Yeah, well, they just say you just buy rental property and you collect cash flow. It's not that simple. Like you have vacancies, tenants destroy your property, the AC goes out, and it costs you $2,800, $3,500 to change out a central unit. They trash unit and they move out, and it takes you 2 to 3 months to renovate it, and then it takes you another 30 days to rent it. That's 4 months of gone revenue plus the CapEx or the rehab cost. So you might have 15 grand tied up into getting it ready again, and you didn't even make 15 grand the whole year off the positive cash flow if they stayed. They don't talk about this on Instagram before I got in, or YouTube before I got into real estate. They lied to me, and I had to, we talk about this all the time. Like I had to figure this out. It's like, nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, you just lost money next year and maybe into the following year.
That's right.
And that's if everything goes perfect.
That's exactly
You're
right.
still going to lose money. But yeah, nobody talks about that. That's just the good, just what sells courses and what, and nothing against courses. I go to a lot of trainings. I get a lot of value out of it. And I'll continue to go because if you quit learning, then you're just going to stop.
Yeah, but it's just, there's some half truths is what we're saying. When you buy these rental properties, that they don't talk about how really the biggest benefit, at least for me, like you guys know, I don't asset discriminate. I own a bunch of different asset classes, apartments, but not a whole lot of apartments, mostly mobile home parks, single families, and a bunch of Airbnbs on the water. They all have their pros and cons. There's not one asset class that's better than the other, but although you'll see a lot of influencers say apartments are the best, especially the past 8 years, apartments were the best thing since sliced bread. I would beg to differ that every asset class has its pros and cons, and one asset class may do better at certain times of the business cycle versus where another asset class does better, right? So I think in a down economy, mobile home parks will crush. My vacancy rate has actually went down since the pullback of when interest rates went up. I noticed it's easier for me to fill units than it was when the economy was booming, because I think people were probably getting a little bit nicer apartments.
Yeah.
Whereas single family homes, as much shit people talk on single family homes, one, why are the hedge funds buying them all up? They got trillions of dollars. And I say not billions, trillions. It's hedge funds like Vanguard, BlackRock, what's the other one? BlackRock, Blackstone, all these big ones that have just gobs of money. I mean, they're buying up tons of single family homes. I was telling you, when the market pulled back, I needed some liquidity. I couldn't just sell off some of my bigger mobile home parks, but it was super easy to, hey, when my tenant moved out, didn't want to renew, or I just wanted to kick him out after the lease was up, I just cleaned it up and put it on the market, and it sold within 30 days, and I got 100 grand.
Right.
Can't do that with apartments.
That's exactly. Now, if y'all don't get anything we're talking about today, get this. Diversify and dominate.
Ooh,
be diverse in your investment strategy. Make sure you can invest in every asset class and dominate the market you're in. Wherever that's at, dominate your market and be diverse so you can take down any and every deal, just like what you're saying. So if apartments are not doing well now, and I don't know anything about investing in single family homes, I'm lost. I'm done. But if you're diverse, then you'll never not be able to do deals.
It's like going into a cage fight, and this is like open fight. It's an MMA fight,
right.
and all you know how to do is wrestle.
Yeah, back in the day, you remember when UFC first started, you had the wrestler against the karate guy,
right?
And you had the jiu-jitsu guy
versus
against
Muay Thai.
Right. It was fun to watch that, but it has evolved.
It has
and the
evolved.
most successful people are diverse and can do it all.
So good, guys. If you don't take anything, what we're talking about right here is, it boils down to not asset discriminating and having the skill sets to better take down all the assets and diversify into all of them, because all of them have the benefit of certain situations at any given time in the market cycle that can help you. I look at myself as an MMA of real estate investors.
Never thought about it. That's really good, though.
I know jiu-jitsu, I know boxing, I know Muay Thai. I can throw you on the ground, meaning I wholesale. I know how to flip. I can raise private money. I own mobile home parks. I own single family homes. I own Airbnbs. I do land development.
Yeah.
So I got my hands in all this, because not all these assets work all the time perfectly. Market goes up, probably apartments and land development does better. Market comes down, wholesaling gets really good, and my mobile homes get rented up, because you can only fall so far.
Yep.
I love that you said diversify and dominate. So we talked about diversify. Let's talk about, how do you dominate?
You should be, if people don't know that you are the real estate guy in your market, you're doing something wrong. I think we talked about it last night. Your marketing should be in their face. They should see you everywhere they turn. They should hear your name everywhere they go. And if you're not doing that, figure it out. I mean, it could be as simple as finding the local coffee shop that everybody goes to. Go to that thing every day for 30 days. Meet everybody in there. And then you don't have to go back. But everybody now knows that, this is Jake. He's the real estate guy. So when somebody comes in and starts talking about real estate, they're going to say, well, you need to talk to Jake. And he's in here all the time. He might be here tomorrow. But do that. Go to your local restaurants that are popular. That's just one tactic. I mean, there's so many of them, but you do them all at one time. Billboards, and social media is huge.
It is.
I mean, if you're not taking advantage of social media, you're crazy. Now, you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of followers or even tens of thousands of followers. Make it organic so that the ones that are following.
You don't buy all your followers and comments?
Man. No. The small following I have more deals than I can handle coming from that. And now the more that I can get, as long as they're organic and they're going to do business with me, that's what we want. We want to add value for them. I want to entertain them. I'm documenting my journey. I'm giving myself more credibility, and it's not something I'm intentionally doing. I'm just showing what I do every day. Yeah. And when you do that, you're gonna get the people that want to do business with you to follow you, and they're gonna know you, trust you, and want to do business with you.
Yeah. For you guys, you probably hear me talk. I call it bragging to branding. Every time I do a deal, I'll post it on social media. Why? Because for one, it gives me more credibility with private money lenders. A lot of the shitheads will probably think, oh, Chris Rood's just bragging. Yes, I am. But I never posted on social media until I knew how powerful it was, like you said, and how much more credibility it can give you, because people can, especially private money lenders, they know, like, and trust that you're doing deals now. And, you're going to get a lot of attention to get you organic deals. And three, you said something that me and Patty have actually talked about that's super powerful, that nobody thinks about, that you said that's really, really good. And that's documenting your journey. How cool will it be in 20, 30, even 40 years from now, Jake, when we're both great? Well, I'm already getting great over here.
Mine's gone.
Yeah, so. Yeah, getting old, and we're 80 years old, and our great grandkids are looking. Go back on your Instagram and go back 40 years ago and see what before we were old and ugly, and see what we were doing.
Right.
That is, nobody's thinking about that. The power of social media 40 years from now, that you can go back and look at your life's journey in real time, like a movie.
Yep. And now for us, I don't know if you do it, but every once in a while I'll go back to 5-6 years ago when I really got going on social media, and I look at some of the things I posted about then, or things I said then, or things that I thought then that I don't think that way anymore.
Yep.
I'm not doing that anymore.
Yep.
And it's a good way to go back and learn from yourself.
So good. That's so good.
You can learn from yourself. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. I've said things on YouTube in 2017, 18 that I don't frankly think are as pertinent, and they were true for me at the time and my skill set and level where I was at, that doesn't make as much sense today.
Right. And it's okay to change. I mean,
that's the name of the game.
You should be adapting and overcoming,
yes.
You know?
Yeah, back to the Marine Corps, adapt, overcome, and that's business, you know, because things change so fast in business. Technology changes, the economy changes, the seasons and cycles of the consumer confidence, interest rates, insurance. We're talking about insurance, how we're getting pounded on insurance. You know I am, because especially me, where I live here in South Louisiana with the Hurricane Alley. We're getting hammered. So you have to change and adapt. You got to overcome. Yep. Right? And this ain't for everybody.
No, not at all.
This stuff's hard.
This is not easy.
We were talking about that, about our kids, right? Will our kids want to do this? Should we push our kids to do this? And I'm here to tell you, after 43 years being on this planet, 5 kids and having 5 kids and being with the same woman for 25 years, you should absolutely not, I repeat, not push and force your kids to do this, because this shit is so hard. And we talked about that earlier. Yeah. This should be a personal decision, because they're going to go on a journey of self-discovery that's going to break them down to their knees, but also build them all the way up. I mean, I've had some of the most painful experiences, also some of the most unbelievable experiences in business and being an entrepreneur.
And I think you said it best when we were talking about it. It's the stress. Yeah. There's so much stress in it, a lot of sleepless nights. Even when you're doing things the right way, things happen.
You can do everything right,
and
right, still get destroyed. Mm-hmm. That's how this you're playing for keeps. The only thing I would say is different between you being a warrior and going fighting for our country as a Marine and serving this country is that if you mess up, you're going to die physically. If you mess up in business, you're going to die financially, which I've never. I'd say it's. I know in my experience, I've had damn near panic attacks and mental breakdowns, especially in my early 20s when I was going hard and I wasn't as smart and savvy, that I felt like I was dying because I was losing all control, and I didn't know. Like I had kids, and I feel like how I'm gonna feed my kids. I'm out of money. I'm out of options. So yeah, we don't mean to scare all of you guys.
No, not at all. I mean, we're not talking about all the good stuff, but I think you see enough of that. On Instagram and TikTok and everywhere now. Yeah. Everybody's giving you the highlight reel. Yeah. Everybody's telling you what's great about it. But not many people are telling you the bad parts. Yeah. Now, the good definitely outweighs the bad. Sure. I still wouldn't be doing it. You wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
But
there's a price to pay.
There is a price to pay. Yeah, absolutely.
And, I've been at this game I've been a full-time entrepreneur for 22 years. You've been doing real estate for 20 what?
Right at 25.
Yeah. Dude, it took me 10 years to get momentum. 10 years to even get a little bit of momentum. So you got to play the long game. You ain't going to start a business or even do real estate for a year and all of a sudden, you've made it, right? I've built most of my wealth. I was telling you, I've built most of my wealth and figured out a lot of this the past 6-7 years.
Yeah, and that's, my business is, astronomically, compounded over the last probably 5 or 6 years too. And now, granted, it was a great market. Yeah. But had I not known what I knew from 2008, living through that, I probably would have made some deals that I would be regretting right now. And there's a lot of investors out there that are regretting some of the deals they did. But I learned from back then. Yeah. So
we talked about this. I'm a child. I was in business. I'm old enough, just like you. I was in business when 2008 hit. And we talked about last night at dinner. It was like, everything stopped. I thought I never experienced this ever because I thought the world was ending. I never forgot that, Jake, and I'm glad you're talking about that. You will go through a cycle like that as an entrepreneur. If you're younger guys, maybe in your 20s and you really hadn't even started a business yet, or maybe you're just getting into real estate, there will be a time in the business cycle where nobody's spending money. Nope. Everything is pretty much shut down, and you don't know what's going on, and you could do everything right, and you still can't make money.
Yeah, it's like I told you, it was almost a 3-year period, a little over 2 years, getting close to 3 years. I didn't sell a house. You couldn't sell anything. So luckily, I invested wisely. I didn't over leverage. God, don't over leverage. Don't go to the bank and get 75, 80% of the loan value on that property. Don't do it. Stay in that 50 to 60 range.
That is so good. You need to repeat that and really understand what that is so important to understand. That is not to over leverage, because you can blow yourself up in real estate easy. Everybody looked like a rock star the past 7-8 years, Jake.
Yeah.
You couldn't mess up. I remember we messed up on a flip and we were like $20,000 over budget and thought we were going to break even. And we had so much inflation, we still made $40,000 on a flip.
Exactly.
Inflation covered our mistakes. It takes real skill to be a professional real estate investor in this market, where things are actually probably coming down slowly. And if you don't buy right and you don't have a good, organizational team of contractors and help and partners to really coordinate things and make it go right, you can really lose your ass in a market like this.
And what'll happen is you only get one time at this credibility thing. So when you're starting out, if you make a mistake, your career is pretty much over, unless you stand behind your word. If you stand behind your word and say, hey, I made a mistake, I'm going to make this right.
Yeah.
You won't lose your credibility. But if you have over leveraged, a lot of people, that's where they're going to lose.
And a lot of people have over leveraged in this market and have lost a lot of credibility in the market. We ain't going to say names, but a lot of big players in the market are hurting bad right now.
Yeah.
Because they over leveraged, right? And I think they over exaggerated how much you can get done by just outsourcing and living a lifestyle business versus how dialed in your operations have to be to really make sure that things don't fall apart.
Yeah, I read the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan.
Yep.
Great book, one of the best in my opinion. And that is a strategy you should use to offload some of those tasks that you don't need to be doing.
Yep.
But there's certain ones I would never give up.
No.
We were talking about that today. I mean, I like finding the deals. I like taking down a deal.
Taking
I like
calls.
negotiating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm really good at. Why would I give that to somebody else? My money, I'm not giving that to somebody else to handle. My wife
because
handles that.
it's beneath you to take calls. You're supposed to be a lifestyle guy.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be a guy that doesn't work in his business. That's beneath you, Jake.
Well, I mean, what else am I going to do? I mean,
exactly.
You can only lay on the beach for so long,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's the bullshit me and Jake talked about in the truck looking at property stages. How much bullshit. Listen, I get it in, folks. Jake gets it in.
Yeah.
We're on the phone grinding. The lifestyle you see me, Jake spent a day and a half with me. You see how many phone calls, and actually it's been a slow day. I tell you that. My phone hadn't ring as much as usually. The letters are not hitting. I still take all my calls. But I do have beach houses. I still hang out on the beach. But in between that, I'm getting it.
You're working when you're at the beach.
That's right.
You're not just taking a vacation.
No.
I mean, I work. My wife knows I'm taking my laptop. I'm taking my phone. Now, I will, try to tailor out some time that I will not be disturbed.
Yep.
But when I do that, somebody else is handling it right then.
Yep.
But that's still what I want to do. I enjoy this.
Yep.
I enjoy taking down a deal.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think a lot of younger guys follow, guys that are big Instagram or influencers, and they try to put on this persona of how it's supposed to be, and it doesn't check off in reality. You can't just outsource everything and not be and put your head in the sand and not be involved in your business at all.
No.
It doesn't exist.
And I definitely don't see myself as an influencer. And I really don't see myself as an investor.
You don't have Lambos and Ferraris and
No. I still drive the same old 2007 Chevy Tahoe, and I just don't want to buy another vehicle.
Yeah.
Why?
That's right. What I picked you up in at the hotel? What I picked you up?
Old Jeep.
An old Jeep.
And it kept shutting off on us.
And it died twice.
I thought we were going to die at the red light.
Yeah.
But I don't see myself as an influencer. I really don't see myself as an investor. I really think I'm a developer. I like to take something that's a piece of crap and turn it back into something good. I've got some shirts. You've got to make mobile home parks great again. I've got to make houses great again. And that's what I like to do. So I really see myself more as a developer, because I take an old product and I make it new again. I make it for somebody to have a nice, affordable house to live in. I take dirt over here and I build something there. I put something there for somebody to live on. I'm developing something that's not there.
And that's where the money's at, Jake.
Yeah.
You know that. We talked about that earlier. I mean, who do you know that's super wealthy, that's a wholesaler and flipper?
That's a job.
Yeah.
And it's a job we actually enjoy, thank God.
Yeah, but that's not what's made me wealthy. No. What's made me wealthy is keeping some of the wholesale deals that are the best ones through my pipeline, and actually building a portfolio from the wholesaling pipeline, flipping the best deals, wholesaling, keeping the best and wholesaling the rest.
Right.
And doing that over a duration of time where you actually have the transactional part, which is the fast money, which is wholesaling, and then it's still transactional, which is flipping, but it's bigger rips, and then shoving that money, extra capital that you have left over, into the best deals in your wholesaling business to keep in your pipeline.
Or like you're doing with the Airbnbs on the water.
Yep.
Great idea.
Yep.
You're putting it somewhere where the values are always going to go up, and where people want to go, a destination. And there's a lot of different strategies. You and I have talked about a few. We won't share those today because we don't want to give out too much information.
No.
But the natural evolution of the investor gain, where you're wanting to be the money at some point.
Yeah.
Well, just so you know, if you don't really want to be the money, but you want to be that successful, there are some other things you can do.
Yep.
But you definitely want to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, some of the things you're doing, and why I like you so much is because, man, we think a lot alike, and we're doing a lot of the same things. I was telling you how I was, we're dropping brand new trailers, double wides, and flipping, and you're doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing.
We never talked about
Nope.
it. We just by the fall we're naturally doing the same thing. You're still doing a lot of flipping like me. You have rental properties. You're big in the mobile homes park space, just like me. I think we do. Our headspace is a lot in the same areas. The development game, though, is, I was telling you, I was showing you some of the developments I had that we're driving around. That's where the real money's at. I want to go back to that because I think, if you look at some of the most successful guys in every town, like the most successful real estate guys, they're developers.
Yeah, and if you ask them, they're developers. They're not investors. They're developers.
Yeah.
And look, that's semantics there, investor versus developer. But what they actually do is different. And I like the development side better. And that is big time money. Yeah. But it takes a long time.
It's slow money.
Very slow money.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you should definitely strive to get to that point over time. Once you understand how to buy deals, you doing direct to seller marketing. Once you understand how to raise private money, maybe then you flipping houses, you understand the construction process. Then you've done some buy and hold to offset your taxes, so you can get the depreciation, and then you get into development, and that's the evolution, the progression chart that I talk to you guys about. That is the correct formula. Unless you got a bunch of money and you go straight to development or straight to buy and hold because maybe you sold the business,
right?
Or you have a business that prints money, you're making millions of dollars of positive cash flow. Then you can skip probably all those other steps, but most people don't have that.
Yeah. And what we were talking about, one of the things we said last night was you could give 10 people $1 million. We were talking about an individual.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
His dad gave him $1 million, and everybody says, well, that's why he's wealthy. Well, you could give 10 people $1 million.
Well, let's back up. I want you to tell the whole story because this is so good.
Yeah, I mean,
that we were talking about specifically Donald Trump, that somebody was saying
that, he's only successful because his rich dad gave him $1 million to start his business. Okay, you can give 10 people $1 million right now, and I guarantee you 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10,
we'll blow it up.
We'll blow it and be broke in 6 months if it takes that long.
Yeah, all you got to do is look at The Curse of the Lottery. You remember that show? You're old enough for that show. Mm-hmm. The Curse of the Lottery was a show back in the 90s or early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
That was documenting people that all hit the lottery, and it showed like clockwork. Within 1 to 4 years or 3 years, depending on how much money they got, they all blew it up. Guys that got $100 million would blow it all up within 3 years. Why? Because they can't handle money. Money is energy. They don't understand it, and they don't have the mindset to control it and understand it because money is energy. And if you don't have the skill sets and the mindset to better control it and understand it, you'll lose it. So back to what you were saying about Donald Trump. Does Donald Trump a man of his stature and wealth because of his daddy?
No.
Or is it because of his skill set and what he's done with it, because he's taken his daddy's smaller fortune and turned it into an unbelievable, massive empire. I think he would have done it regardless if he was born in that family or not.
Right.
Because the man is super talented, obviously.
Whether you like the political side of him or not, when you look at what he's done in business, and look, even the tax stuff, he's operating under the rules that are there.
You do it.
We all do it.
Yeah.
And that brings up another point. Another friend of ours, I think you know her as well. They're selling a lot of their rental portfolio right now. And, you know, in the comments, a lot of people are commenting about, well, what about the tax burden and the depreciation you're going to be missing and all that? And they're like, I'll just pay my taxes on it, but I want to take the money off the table while it's good.
Yeah.
And look, taxes aren't what we all think about all the time. I don't think you do either. That's just a part of it. You know, if you got to pay a little taxes here, you pay them. And if you can get away with not paying them legally, ethically.
Morally, and ethically.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, then you don't. But I'm not running my business based off of my tax burden. And I don't think you do either.
No.
So don't let that get into your head either, that, you know, I want to be zero taxes paid every year. That's
just the benefit of knowing and understanding the game. If you do buy and hold, that is a benefit that, yes, right, you can offset your taxes legally, morally, and ethically by having enough buy and hold in your portfolio to offset your fast and medium money so you don't pay taxes. So, yeah, that's spot on. You know, we talked about a lot of different things here, Jake. You know, what were some of the biggest mistakes you've made?
The biggest one is I did not get my systems and processes in place early. And when you don't do that and you try to scale, or when you scale, because that's what happened to me, is I scaled and it was so hard. And that it was so much undue stress on me, on my team. And you lose a lot of time, you lose a lot of deals, you lose a lot of money. And if you'll just, when you start out, if you've got one or two rental properties, you put your system in place then. Yeah. Then when you start scaling, as you're scaling, the only thing you have to do is adjust your processes and your systems. You know, and if you're in a wholesale bit, it goes for every one of them. Yeah. Every asset class, everything you do, get your systems and processes in place as quickly as you can. Yeah. I did not do that. Something as simple as, I can remember, you know, people calling or texting or emailing about a rental property back when I handled it by myself. And I would, every time one of them texted or emailed, I would physically put in the address, how much it was, and everything, and send it to them. Something as simple as when you get a vacancy, you put it on this notepad, and then now all I got to do is copy and paste every time somebody does it. Something that simple saves you so much time. So yeah, systems and processes is probably the biggest thing. The one mistake I did not make was over leveraging, which I think is huge. I think a lot of people make that one, but I did not.
That's what you did right.
Yes.
Yeah. You have a lot of equity in your properties. You bought right.
Yeah.
You didn't pull lines of credit and max out all your equity and pull out all your equity and live off your. A lot of people do that. A lot of people live off their lines of credit.
I know people that, I mean, that's their strategy now. They have enough single-family homes that they have enough that they can pull money off of one every year in a cycle. So over 30 years, they get paid back off, and they live off of that. But that's their strategy. That's the only thing they're doing. They set it up that way. Yeah. Most of us are not going to set it up that way. So
but they have enough
yourself.
Equity and enough houses to rotate them. That's I've never heard of that. That actually sounds pretty genius. Yeah. If you have enough and you just do one a year. And rotate them.
They know what they need to live off of, 80, 90 grand a year, whatever it is. But he lives a very frugal life.
Yeah. And I would say, if you're going to be a guy that wants to live off your cash flow and all you do is rental property, guess what? You ain't going to have my lifestyle. No. You ain't going to you're going to have a very frugal lifestyle.
You can do it and live a frugal lifestyle.
Yes, but you know what else you're going to be doing? All your maintenance. You're going to take all your calls. You ain't going to have a team, and you're going to have no freedom. Yep. I mean, you may have some freedom. It's not like you have calls all the time, but there's just got to be a lot of misconceptions that need to be opened up and brought to light to the real estate game that a lot of people don't quite understand, that think that you just buy a rental property and sell off into the sunset. If you're going to do that, you better have a good cash flow business coming in to support everything you're doing
Yeah.
with your rentals. Because you got a little 24 unit apartment complex and the roof goes out, dude, that's easily a $70,000, $80,000 bill.
Yeah. And what cash flow you thought you were going to make is gone.
It's gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe for the next year too.
That's right. So what is Jake up to going into the future? What do you predict? What do you foresee the next 5 years for you, this country? I know you're a patriot, you got an American flag. We serve.
Yeah.
We serve. You get tattooed. You just look like a badass American patriot Marine. What do you foresee the next 5-10 years?
Well, I think our country's kind of going in a bad direction now. I think we've gotten away from God, which is the biggest problem. I think the men are failing at what they should be doing. So I think we're going to have some challenges ahead, but I think we'll pull through.
Yeah.
I think the real estate market, if we want to go on the real estate side, I think we're going to have another dip. We haven't, I don't think we've seen the correction that we're going to see yet. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities. I think you and I talking offline, we're doing a lot of the same things, taking some chips off the table. And we're going to continue to do that. And then I'm looking at how things are going to look 5 or 10 years down the road when I do want to pull back some of my time and what that's going to look like. So transitioning more out of rental properties into cash and notes and things like that. So that's where we're transitioning.
Yep.
But we're going to. I love flipping houses. I love making houses great again. Yeah. So I'll continue to do that probably until God says it's time to come home. But
right, but you can't buy forever. I mean, I think you got to stay balanced.
Right.
You need to buy and sell 50% of the time.
I like that. What you've been saying that for years is you should be buying and selling all the time.
All the time.
And I told you this earlier. A mentor of mine asked me one day when we were looking at one of my properties. He said, "Do you want to own that in 30 years?" And I said, "God, no. It'll be a piece of crap in 30 years." He said, "Then it's for sale. Anything you don't want for the next 30 years is for sale. At any time that is good to sell it, sell it." So it changed the thought process for me. I really intended on having my rental properties forever, but now I'm looking at them a whole lot different.
You have to, because you're not going to live forever, for one, and your life cycle as a human on this earth of energy levels is going to deplete as we get older. And if you don't think that through and understand that, hey, there's going to be a time that you can't even think right? And you can't handle the stress, and you can't handle the burden of all of what we do. We handle a lot of burdens. So if you're not buying and selling 50% of the time to stay liquid and have equity, and there's a careful balance of equity versus liquidity.
Yes.
You got to have both. And you can't have too much of one or the other. And you got to know how much to have of one or the other in a cycle that you're in. Last 5 years, it's better to put your liquidity, and I shoved all of my liquidity into equity, into properties. And that helped pull my net worth. That was a smart move.
Right.
Now we're at the top of the cycle. I'm taking some chips off the table. I was telling you, I'm selling about 4 or 5 parks right now. Taking some chips off the table. And what am I doing with it? I'm going to redeploy that into some nicer, newer assets. Also, one thing that you guys need to understand is that you always want to upgrade your portfolio. Constantly take chips off the table, recycle money into a better quality asset. You guys that follow me have seen that I'm buying another condo on the beach that's a tier 1 asset, right? It's not going to cash flow that great. It's not going to be like my mobile home parks, but it's super high-end, valuable, and rare, and they didn't make very much of it.
Yeah. Another thing with that is your financial statement and your balance sheet versus liquidity. I would challenge you to go sit down with your banker and say, look, if I sell $3 million worth of assets, and that changes my balance sheet, and that changes my personal financial statement, how is that going to affect me lending wise? I was a little surprised when my banker told me, as long as you put some of this cash, a lot less than I thought, back in the bank, keep it liquid, then you're actually in better shape than having a higher valuation.
That's so good. I mean, staying bankable.
Yes, very bankable.
Yeah, because that's important for us as real estate investors. We got to stay bankable. We also need to make sure we're always constantly having access and raising private money. Don't wait to raise private money. Raise private money and wait.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're going to be scrambling to get access to money. I'm always raising private money all the time because I don't know when the next opportunity is going to come, and I need to pounce.
And I think there's a lot of opportunities coming.
Yeah, and this is why I'm taking chips off the table.
Right.
Because I think I can recycle some assets for better assets here soon. Well, Jake, man, this has been really, really good. You know, I appreciate you coming all the way from South Carolina, coming down and hanging out. It's been a pleasure to hang out with you, get to know you a little bit better for the past day and a half. And Jake, where can they follow you out on social media?
I'm on Instagram, The Real Jake Sullivan, Facebook, Jake Sullivan, TikTok, The Real Jake Sullivan. Mm-hmm. So I'm on all three.
And for you guys that are not following me yet, you can follow me at Real Estate Rood on Instagram, or Chris Rood Entrepreneur on Instagram, also on Facebook, Chris Rood. And if you guys need help with your game, you can always inbox me on social media. I love to help people. You know, you guys know that we have created a special group inside of my coaching company called Allies, where we truly help each other build wealth. And if you want to be a part of Allies, you want to come out to a mastermind and see what a community of like-minded entrepreneurs and real estate investors are like, helping each other build wealth, helping each other do deals, raise private money, share value, partnerships. Allies is for you. You can go to alliesmastermind.com and you can come out to the next event. We do them every 3 months. As a matter of fact, we're doing the next one September 11th and 12th in Charleston, South Carolina. Jake's going to be a featured speaker there. He's going to be able to share his story. And if you just need coaching, you can inbox me and I can help you with your game. I'm not a guru, folks. I promise you I'm not. I run circles around any guru. I've yet to meet a guru that works as hard as me, and that's not me blowing smoke up my ass. That's me knowing and having confidence and certainty because I know all the gurus.
Yeah.
And this shit is so hard that being around those guys, and I've spoken on stages, a lot of stages with some of the biggest players, it ain't that simple, folks. And it ain't that easy. But it's worth it if you're willing to put in the work, suffer through a little bit, share a little bit of calculated risk, and understand that you better play the long game. Give yourself a decade. So hope this helps, guys. Please give me a like, give me a subscribe, leave a comment. If you don't like this podcast, if you don't even like me, I don't care. Say, hey, dude, you're an asshole and I hate your content. Dude, I like that too. At least I know I'm communicating with you. So anyway, I'll see you guys on the next episode of Beyond the Skills.